we started off with what is it says, have you ever dreamed of a better version of you? Y- Younger, more beautiful, more perfect? Okay, let's talk about the substance. Oh my God. Apparently everyone uses this as, so maybe it's a bad idea.
Welcome to the Goblin's Cursed audio files, transmissions from the Enneagram abyss. I am Larissa, and I will be joined by Bisou for this inaugural episode, deveining of Enneagram, three-wing 4, and tearing apart the substance, the film. We'll be exploring themes of shame, identity, self-loathing, the cancerous desire to become more than what you are, and how that creates hideous malformations in the soul and the outer self, and much more. It was kind of a spontaneous act on our part. Unfortunately, myself and Bisou have really annoying voices. There's also a lot of tech issues in this the spontaneous act of passion. So if you're a perfectionist with audio, you're probably going to hate this and, I don't know, show yourself out. If you're a deep diver and you're just here for the gremlin-y treats, then please enjoy. There will be more film ones, there'll be more conversational ones, and ones that feature introverts who don't want to show their beautiful faces on camera. We're all decaying, we're all melting into the void in the goblin sphere. There's announcements coming soon as well. Server 2.0, and I don't know. If you want to get typed by me, Larissa, you can go to goblinsofdiscord.com. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Why is this so much harder than doing video suddenly?
This is so much harder than doing video. I don't know if I can podcast.
Yeah, like having a panic attack.
Okay, should I start? Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect? One single injection unlocks your DNA, starting a new cellular division that will release another version of yourself. Today, we'll be talking about the substance and how it encapsulates type 3-wing 4 in the most perfect way possible.
Yeah, I mean, the story is basically about an Enneagram type 3 actress who is miserable with aging. She gets dropped from her career mercilessly for youth, and she plunges into the shame spiral, the self-image, self-hatred of image types when their image is not reflecting back to them how they wish to be seen.
It's about an ideal version, a better version of yourself, but one that comes exclusively from you. Like, not to call out 3 and 2s, but they don't care as much about like adopting other people's traits or whatever. Like with 3 and 4, it's still important that the idea is that it's all you, just a better version.
Yeah, it kind of, I thought when I was rewatching it, I was like thinking of that phrase that I've heard a lot of 3s say, probably more likely 3 and 4s, but where, because competition is like a central feature of 3s, like being in competition, comparison, like shining, and a lot of 3s get offensive and are like, I'm not in competition with anybody else, I'm just in competition with myself.
Right.
Was really putting that in this film.
Yeah, and I think that's like especially true for 3 and 4. It's like, I mean, it would be a lie to say you're not aware of the outside world, but I think that's true for any type, to be honest, and 3s just get the most kind of flack for that, but it really is about having a standard for yourself and wanting to reach it. And what part of what makes this film interesting is that Demi Moore or Elizabeth like has reached that pinnacle. Like she won an Oscar, right? And now she's just, but she's living the life she wants with her Oscar, post-Oscar fame, doing this fitness show. And then she ages out. And the thing is, like, what do you do then?
All of your self-worth is tied up in your accomplishments. The director, the writer-director, Coralie Farge, her and Demi Moore are probably both 3s.
Hmm. And I think it gets to also, like achievements are fleeting. Even something as major as like winning an Oscar with threes, it's like they always need more and more. Like there's this insatiability, I think, with all the assertive types and needing more, and threes just continue to need more and more of an image hit. But it's like at some point, how much more can you get? And then when you're like aging out of the industry per societal standards, like that's a hard future. I mean, that's a hard future to contemplate. They obviously show her coming to a horrific end in the film, but is it actually worse than if she just went on to live like a miserable life? I don't know.
Type 3 wing 4, which is known as the professional, the achiever, the ice queen. It's a heart type, double
Mhm.
heart type, a shame type, a self image type.
I think that really encapsulates its like type structure. But 3 and 4 is known to be, let's say the average 3 and 4 is average, but 3 and 4 at its height is known to be kind of like the ultimate vampire, icy, yet somehow charming, yet darkly attractive, and very full of themselves and ruthless and kind of killers at their spirits.
This film was like a great expression of what happens to type 3s when they have like a self image crisis. There's a lot of elements in it that point to like trying to escape shame, which is sort of like each Enneagram type is trying to run towards something, and by running towards this thing, it basically prevents themselves from ever getting it, and it also is trying to prevent the feeling in each center. So for heart types, it's shame. For head types, it's fear. And for gut types, I mean, I guess it's anger, but that's not really. I think there needs to be a better word for that.
It's more than just escaping shame, and I think we'll notice a theme when we talk about 3 and 4 that it's kind of goes between two almost like extremist poles because 3 and 4 can be very mutually reinforcing, but they're also very different. So it's escaping shame, but it's also almost, it's not running towards greed, but it's like this insatiable, 3 has an insatiable need for more and more image validation. So you can be caught anywhere on that continuum between like ultimate shame and then ultimate like feasting on your image and your validations that you get and whatever. So I think that this kind of covers both sides of the pole.
Yeah, and in this particular one, Elizabeth, played by Demi Moore, is chasing, well, she's chasing youth, but it's like to get that image validation, that like achievement. She's still relevant, she still matters, she's still beautiful. um People still see
Yeah.
her as valuable, which is like a huge 3 thing.
At the same time, what's interesting and what I find is special to 3 and 4 that we sort of maybe we touched on earlier is that when you think about it, to Elizabeth, like there are many like there are many themes we can discuss, but she when you think of it, like only she and Sue, only Elizabeth and Sue know that Sue comes from her, and maybe, the guy who like referred her to the substance. So it's kind of interesting, like she's so eager to relive this kind of height of glory days of youth and beauty when you're applauded, you're getting roses, like you're getting everything, that she's like, okay, I will split off this part of me with no kind of idea like what the consequences are and let her go and shine in place of me. But I know that she's me. I know that she comes from me, but like nobody else knows that she comes from me. She thinks if even worse, they think she's just like the younger, hotter replacement, and they don't get that she's actually Elizabeth at her core. which is like I think a very three wing four thing. Like they'll make those kind of sacrifices just knowing themselves. But in the fact, maybe they wish everyone else knew, you can tell that later when Elizabeth is like, like she's like cooking all the crazy food and she's like, tell them, like, you know that you're me. This is my dream. You're living my dream for me. But she doesn't tell them. But that's sort of a very, I think, three and four thing is to like sort of, you just kind of like are in it for yourself in a way at the end of the day.
But I think that there is like a thing in the heart center of feeling like you can be replaced.
Yeah, no, she knows she can be replaced, but she has the opportunity to replace herself with herself. It's very narcissistic, but also kind of humbling in the same vein. Like she's gonna replace herself with herself, so that at least part of her in some way, even if she's sort of, severed in those terms, like she'll go on to be the one who gets the accolades and continues to win the achievement. It comes from her, but at the same time, she's being replaced basically by V2 of herself.
And I wonder if that's like almost like somewhat of a curse too for threes, because especially three and four, because they want to shine brightly and be seen for their shining, but then through doing that, maybe this is like a bit of a four heart frame on it, but it's like through doing that, you then give your treasures up for another person to emulate.
Well, I grew up, hearing a lot about how when they integrate three goes to six, they stop being so self-centered. They teach and coach and encourage others and like are, lead through example and inspire others to kind of achieve the greatness that they believe they have. Um, but I don't think that's really what those threes want to like end up doing. They want to like maintain. I mean, yeah, I think threes, it's not like threes aren't capable of that. They're good people. Like they can be very inspirational, motivational, but I think it's more sprinkled throughout your life. And it's not like you achieve something and then you go off and like cheat onto others and then they steal it and you're unhappy or whatever. It's just like, they want to hold on to the glory as much as they can.
Yeah.
The average
That
one.
happens to fours more than threes.
It happens to image types. They don't want to let go of whatever they perceive as their like most glorious self.
The substance deals with issues around identity and shame and self-worth, the authentic self versus the kind of the self-image self, the constructed, curated self. So this is all like three, this is all heart type, the idealized self versus the like she's not really the authentic self in the beginning, but Demi Moore becomes the authentic self in this battleground where because she is the real three because she's like anything and insecure.
I think there's also themes of like self-sabotage, self-hate. That probably comes mostly from the four wing, but can also be just core to three.
I thought it was like interesting too, like the use of symbols in the film. Like obviously, like the egg, the two eggs, it's like two parts of something.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought just like the egg generally is like interesting because it is that like hard but fragile shell on the outside that's protecting what's inside. Like the persona or the
Mm-hmm.
like the false image protecting like the vulnerable inner self.
Mm-hmm. And you notice actually when I don't know, I think I'm just like reading too much into it, having watched this movie like 100 times already, or like 50 times, I don't know. But when they like show the egg being injected and then the yolk being injected and then the other yolk coming out, the first yolk actually looks pretty perfect. And they inject it, the other yolk comes out, and then the first yolk looks a little less perfect. That may have just been an artifact of like, well, we just couldn't get the shot right or something. But I think that's also how the movie ends up playing out. Like when you think of it, I mean, Demi Moore like is pretty seems pretty perfect like as her original, as Elizabeth Sparkle, like even if she is fired by like some what by the way what they show it to be a completely disgusting asshole who is her boss, right? Like completely disgusting asshole. So she gets fired and that sucks, but she's still like she looks incredible. She's very smart. She shows herself to be kind, like she has everything going for her, right? And it's not until she does, you know, it's sort of like the price of ambition, like the price of ambition. Like she goes too far in her ambition, um, and goes forward with the substance. And it's only when she gets, she kind of separates herself into these two halves that then her original self ends up being kind of tarnished.
Assertive types, but especially threes, it's like trying to stay ahead or trying to
Mm-hmm.
everybody, and it's like you can't after a certain point. So you should
Yeah.
like look back and be like, wow, look what I accomplished.
Right. But I think that's why this movie really like speaks to type three because I feel like for most threes it would be like impossible to resist. You could take this substance, you could take a shots and you'll be more beautiful, younger, better version of yourself. What three wouldn't be at least like so curious that they wouldn't do it? I mean, I guess a very healthy or stable or boring three, but I think most threes with a sense of adventure would be like, dude, I gotta see this. Like just one shot, and then there's like some miraculously better version of myself. Like, holy shit, like I've been looking for this my whole life. Like I really like at that point, even if you've done so much and you're like very accomplished and you're still beautiful and you have so much going for you, it's just like this insatiable need to like push the bounds of your potential and like see, maybe there's like I had the potential to be a version of myself that's even better than I ever even came close to embodying, that I ever even came close to maybe even dreaming of. I just think for most threes that would be like a very hard um sale to like sell to say no to.
Yeah, I guess it's like threes and sevens are kind of always looking for the shortcut, and I think
It's not just a shortcut, it's a cut to something maybe better than you could have ever like dreamed of.
and there was also kind of like the reoccurring symbolism too with like that the substance where it was like also like the antidote or whatever, like there was sort of it was like I think the antidote at one point was the martinis. She felt bad, so she was like knocking back martinis. That was like the antidote or the substance, if you will. And then in the morning, she had to drop the pill in the water. That will cure the hangover. And it was
Mm-hmm.
a reoccurring theme of like the thing that will fix everything in this moment and then makes everything worse. Or like when she starts like chowing down
Mm-hmm.
greasy chicken, and then
Yeah.
well, I guess like what was what's her face Sue's thing was, I guess Sue's thing was just like acclaim and adulation, and like she was doing
Mm-hmm.
that free thing, getting high off that.
Yeah. And one hot Diet Coke scene. Like the typical, like, Diet Coke drinking, like the music pumping, the as the can clicks open, like you can see the condensation. It just felt like a very typical, almost like music video type scene.
It was like 90s supermodel core Cindy Crawford.
Yeah.
Like, and I do love that the director Cora Lee like did adjust how she shot things to reflect the emotional state. And I thought it was like interesting how, whether she was doing it on purpose or not, like she knows about the Enneagram or not, she was like reflecting through shot choices, gaze, and
Hmm.
like the scenes with Dennis Quaid. Yeah, that's who it was, right? It was
Hmm.
like when I was watching that, I was like, I felt like I was in a fishbowl, and he was like peering in at me, being like,
Yeah, it was creepy.
and then she did these other shots from like above that almost felt like it's looking down on like a specimen. It's like not even
Hmm.
objectifying as like, oh, this beautiful object. It's like the audience is almost like oppressing. It's the audience that's playing God in all of these scenes, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, you have all the Sue scenes where she's like soft lighting and glowing and
Mm-hmm.
iridescent, pink and sparkling. You can like taste the strawberries when you look at her. Like that's kind of how.
Yeah, no, that's true. I feel like that is she doesn't make it. They didn't make a good use of like camera angles and cinematography to express what is like really the dissociation of the female character at the time, whether it's like Demi when she's sitting in front of Dennis Quaid, like disgustingly eating those shrimp, like, and it looks like a fishbowl type thing. And you can sense she's kind of dissociating. She's like, what do you, after 50, what? Like, what, or what stops? Like, and then there's the scene where Sue is like having a crisis. Like, she's just pulled out a bunch of her teeth and she's standing in front of Dennis Quaid and the board full of old white men, like, and they're like, pretty girls should always smile, and it's like has that same like dissociated effect to it. Like, so I think she captured that feeling of dissociation really well. About, I mean, I guess it's common to any type, but three like any type is not immune to it.
But yeah, and I think it did like really accurately convey the feeling of being peered at and like pawed
Mm-hmm.
and judged, and like yeah, that was like a common theme throughout too, which was like constantly having gaze on you, and then
Yeah.
the judgmental gaze
Oh,
or
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's even that scene after, like when Sue, like on her second, like the second time they show her in like the workout video, and like something like pops out of her butt.
yeah.
Remember? It ends up being weird and like whatever, but
Yeah,
they're
it was
like rewatching it on the video. They're like, light up camera two or something, and they're rewatching like just her like shaking her ass over and over, trying to find whatever seemed weird. It's like definitely portrays how
oh,
people
taken.
are put under a spectacle.
Mhm. And I like how they did convey that too, like the internal process of like Demi Moore's character, like Elizabeth is like eating all of this greasy chicken, and then it's showing up her like butt, like her
Yeah,
thigh.
yeah.
So much of this is like also like the women's kind of like insecurities, but I do feel like it's
Hmm.
because it's about an image type made by an image.
Because it wasn't ever clear that on the video they actually saw something abnormal. You know what I mean? Or else they probably would have like not let Sue like go ahead and go on to do the like whatever it was New Year's Eve show. But like Sue felt it. So it's like kind of getting to she has this tie back to like her inner kind of her inner self, which is Elizabeth, but like nobody else sees that until things go very wrong at the end. And that's very kind of three and four-ish, right? Like they want to keep their dark secrets hidden when it
Yeah,
comes to self-image stuff.
off your point, I thought it was like the interesting, like how that like hidden part, like the shame part, was like expressed through this like secret locked away room that like no one
Mm-hmm.
like in the walls, but no one would see is there.
Mm-hmm.
Hidden place for her to hide her secret shame. Like I thought that was like so fucking well done, and
Mm-hmm.
like metaphorically expressed, and then I mean, that's like a recurring theme, obviously, throughout the whole thing, where it's like almost like she goes to get the substance, and it's like going to like some back alley. Like it maybe
Mm-hmm.
those urban legends of like women going
Mm-hmm.
rubber cement put in their fucking face or something because they're like, oh, like I need filler, and then they end up like mutilated
Mm-hmm.
because they were
Yeah.
just so desperate to like because it kind of had a walk of shame to a lot of those parts whenever she like went to that place like hiding in her coat, and she got more,
Mm-hmm.
more hunched over,
Exactly.
and like it was kind of like the shame ate her alive, couldn't even show herself anymore because it was so hideous to her.
I would though like challenge any three-wing four who says they don't have some kind of dark hidden shame that they can only at least semi process like in the privacy, in total privacy, them alone with themselves. Like I just don't think shame is necessarily emphasized enough sometimes when we talk about threes, because like they can be seen as shameless, especially three-way and twos. I'm just gonna run through like scenes that I love, like the pump it up scene, and interrupt me as you will. I just love that scene because first of all, it's like such a banging song, but it's also like that is that's really where Sue reaches her like crescendo, you know? So that's sort of almost like that's Elizabeth's like kind of like ultimate other selves like moments, and it's just interesting. Trying to go in order here. Oh, well, I should have started with the Billboard teardown. That was like a huge, I mean, for a three, that was like the, you know, Elizabeth got in a car crash and eventually ended up taking the substance. But like for a three, can you imagine seeing your Billboard taken down? That would be harsh.
Oh yeah, I like that that was like the catalyst for her like
Yeah.
just like it was literally her image being
It's literally torn down.
yeah. And then the car wreck that ensues.
Mm-hmm.
Because she would feel like she just got hit by a car emotionally, but then she's like unscathed, but it's like she's not
Yeah.
really scathed internally. It's like all internal.
No, she cried even. They're like, you're fine. And she's like, boo hoo hoo. Like she's just learned that her like career has come to an end. I do also love the scene though where Elizabeth Demi is getting ready for like a date night with that like random dude she met from middle school, and she's, you know, gotten dressed up and she's just kind of putting the final touches on in the mirror, but then she sees Sue like lying down and she's like kind of thinking about how, oh, but Sue is like, I'm not young and hot anymore like Sue, like do I, because even like the guy who turned her on to the substance, like his older self had even asked her at one point like, you know, it's long, right? 7 days. And he says like, you know, it's hard to feel like we still matter. So this is like her Elizabeth trying to feel like still she still matters. She has this guy who she knows really still worships her from middle school or whatever, or high school. She's trying to put on a nice date night outfit and putting on some lipstick, but then she sees her like other better self, and gets like totally freaked out and just has like a meltdown and doesn't go.
Yeah, like, and I'm not a three, but I could. I remember when I mean I've only watched this twice, but I was like crying when I watched that because
Yeah, I was really sad
I was like
because she was really
I've
trying.
never done that. Like not that, but I was like I know exactly how that feels. It's so
Yeah,
when you
that's so awful.
you're not like however old she is in it. It's like you
Yeah, at some
in
point.
a low space and then you try to like look and you're trying to look nice and all you see is like everything that's ugly about you. It's like
Yeah.
horrible. But then of course the other person, it's not even about
Mm-hmm.
the person. They're just reflecting, they're just serving as like almost a mirror back to you of like your own insecurities. There was like layers to that relationship that I liked. She felt so worthless that she didn't even meet up with this guy who's like
Mm-hmm.
objectively gross.
Yeah, like objectively, like a
Or
loser.
crying or even like literally changing out of your skanky like grandma
Mm-hmm.
like sweatpants. Like who cares about this guy? But
Yeah.
when he showed up initially, like presented as like, oh, he's like affirming her beauty, she still matters, but he's so gross. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also like an image crisis thing where it's like this is the type of person that finds me fucking attractive. Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, is this all I can get now? Like I don't want this.
But I feel like maybe she stooped to him because like he'd be an easy win. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's maybe like she feels like he's the, it's almost like this is what it is. She chooses to go out with him because she knows he will be so excited to be hanging out with her, like, and so like adoring of her or whatever. Um, but she knows he's like not really like who she's into. And at the same time, even though she knows like she could wear anything and he'd be into her, she still feels too ugly or too unworthy when she looks at herself in the mirror to even go out. Like she has to then make her self-sabotage. You know, she has an episode, she smears her lipstick all over because she's just like so frustrated and unhappy with herself. And it's yeah, it's pretty heart-wrenching.
And I think that is like sort of the contradiction, I guess, of like 3 and 4. Because yeah, like when he does give her his number, it's like he drops it in the mud and then
Yeah.
dusting, like filth covered thing.
Yeah.
And it's like they're sort of like baked into that, like, I'm gonna be degrading myself by even like
Hmm.
disgusting thing.
Right.
Validation from someone who is just so that I can feel better about myself. And so I think that there is like that superiority complex, but also like
Hmm.
superiority complex, like you already addressed. So there's like this interesting interplay, I think, that happens probably with like all image types, but I think specifically ones that have like 4 in their type, whether it's like wing or 4 because it's like I hate myself, but I hate you as well.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
one thing
just
like I used to write about three and fours. It's like if you don't love me, what's wrong with me? But if you do love me, like what the fuck is wrong with you? Because it's like you know that you're like it's like they want to be seen a certain way, but at the same time are almost the average ones, like they're not like self-accepting enough for like love or like deeper feelings. There's like a resentment towards people who kind of think positively about you, like, well, you just don't get what's good. You don't have, on the one hand, it's like this is superior and inferiority thing, like, I'm so great, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I hate myself. And when I'm in private, I'm like having chickens come out of my belly button and I'm like having fucking meltdowns and I'm like smearing lipstick over my face and like no one ever sees that. So it's like when you do kind of really like me, it's like, well, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm a total disaster. So it's like this constant, but it's like a constant tension between those two extremes.
she's rebirthing herself until she gets to that image that she finally, as you said, like you're never gonna be happy with it, but it's like I like that was kind of a play on like like a werewolf scene in a horror movie that
Hmm.
like 25 minutes in ish, where she kind of births her the new version,
Yes.
where it's like this is the idealized self that she's giving birth to,
Hmm.
is agonizing and destroying her actual um her old self that she has to keep alive. So it's like this almost this like cursed object or cursed self that you're carrying around while you're trying to be this other thing.
But I don't know, no one can know how they'd actually react in this situation. But I'm like, if I was Elizabeth, like the first time Sue had like gone over the 7 days and like caused me to have like a permanent finger like rotten and damaged such that I'd have to wear gloves forever. Like, would I have pulled the plug? Like, I don't know, but I mean, it feels like at that point, things just were kind of snowballing into some kind of effect that, like, is just inevitable if you go that far, like, I guess, as to split yourself into two people. Which I think, though, people should keep in mind as technology advances.
Guys,
We've seen Severance, we've seen like Death Becomes Her. We know it's not like really a good path to go down. So like
perfect movie though.
sacrifice for like youth, forever youth, or like something.
Yeah, he's like a 3-4. That he's like a 3-5-1 or something. It's that Brian, I don't know if it's like Brian Johnson or something. He's like that weird biohacker guy, and he like gets his like young son's blood injected into him. I find him so curious. I looked at him on Twitter like I don't know a month or two ago, and he was literally tweeting about his son's erections. He was like monitoring his like adult son, like or 20-year-old son
Oh,
night erections. My son's
oh,
erection is like so crazy. I think it's
that
like
is so crazy.
it's famous. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I've started taking rapamycin, which I believe was like originally a tech bro type thing, but I've just used it to delay menopause. I just read in a National Geographic article until I met about it, but I'm like, I feel so tech bro taking rapamycin, but then my husband told me most like guys stop taking it because it doesn't work or something. I'm sure it doesn't work. Nothing can work for them, right? This was another scene that like I laughed, I admit, but it was touching when there's like whatever it is, like the monstrous Eliza Sue or whatever, and they've, clearly fucked shit up beyond comprehension, like to redone the activator, not supposed to, like whatever, and they merge into that like kind of monstrous blob. But like that monstrous blob is almost like an innocent version of themselves. Like it's there in the mirror putting on earrings, curling like a stray strand of hair, but it falls off. Like I kind of felt like, oh my God, when you're like hopeless, like I've had those times where I felt hopeless, like in the mirror, I'm like, God damn, maybe if I curl my hair a little bit, but it's like, dang, doesn't work. Like, I don't know. I felt like that was like a kind of touching scene when the monster's like trying to get pretty for the ball or the horror ensues.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think there was like an undercurrent of innocence the whole thing on some level too, because it was like just this desperation to be loved was like the
Right. It was just like desperation to be loved. And that's what threes really want. That people are that's like, I don't know, like threes really want to be loved.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm like, obviously you would have noticed it, but like there were all these kind of elements where she was like doing this stuff with like these heart symbols.
Yes, yes, heart symbols. Yep.
And then when she plunged, like she took her blood and she plunged it into
Yeah.
his heart to like revive her. I thought that was powerful. Again, like I don't know if she
Hmm.
Enneagram, but she was definitely using like symbology.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, I don't know, it took that moment she realized I want her to do her thing because at least me know, like, it was almost like that three acceptance that, okay, look at me now. I've aged 80 years in like a week or 2 weeks. Um, I have nothing really left. I want to stop this, but then I realized, what do I really want to stop this for? Like, at the end of the day, I wanted people to know that like Sue was like connected to me somehow, or at least like that Sue would express that she was inspired by Elizabeth, right? Which she didn't do when she was in the interview, right? She like disparages Elizabeth and stuff. So she gives no sign of being any way connected to her. So, but she's like, okay, now I have literally nothing, no hope. This is my ultimate last hope. I'd rather at least know for myself that she could go out there and shine and that that's a reflection on me and I can know myself. But it's too late.
It is kind of like the three shame narrative of like rewriting the past to be something
Hmm.
impressive to what they think is going to be more impressive or likable or saleable or whatever. And then the part of them inside is probably like screaming at themselves for doing that and being like kind of
Hmm.
caring maybe. And I feel like it was also interesting like how obviously you have to use mirrors if you're going to make a movie about image types or threes, but just the kind of tracking of herself
Hmm.
throughout these transformations, and then at the end where she was like smashing the old
Hmm.
the old Elizabeth's face like into the photo,
Yep.
like the bloody pulp into the mirror, because that was clearly like again like a shame, rage, like
Hmm.
you're disgusting, I hate you, you're not
Yeah, yeah.
good enough, like yeah, trying to kill that part of the self to be the
Hmm.
shiny creation, the creature. But you can't kill that.
Which I think is chilling to think about. Like, what if the shiny creature could kill off the original self? Like, that's chilling.
It does for some people, and then they end
I
up
know it does for some people, and that's chilling. The other self just goes totally rogue. Next episode, Three Wing Twos.
I think it's so sad when she's like, but it's still me, it's me. Like
Elizabeth, I'm Sue.
yeah. You guys love up to torture her more and more, like until
Yeah.
and I love that she like spit up this like fake tit. It was
Yeah.
her grandiose death where she was spraying blood like spray tans all across Los Angeles. It was like, so over the top though. I mean, I feel like I don't know, that ending sort of ruined it a little bit. I
I didn't
also
mind so much because I went into it thinking it's a horror, and then I was like, this isn't so much a horror at first, but I was really into the drama aspects. But then it like turned into like a kind of true horror film.
And then she tries to salvage it by super gluing her old, like a cutout of her old face onto her hideously deformed new, like, amalgam face. And then it flutters to the floor, horrifying the audience, which is like the perfect metaphor for the three masks dropping and then their worst fears being actualized, which is like people screaming and running and trying to kill them.
and then there's like that kind of black swan moment at the end where it's like her face melting into her Hollywood.
Yeah, her own star. Yeah, Black Swan for sure. We
But
should
I
do.
made it. It was worth it because here I am still like
I
narcissistic.
died on my star. Oh God.
Like
I think the end though, here's the thing. I feel like the end, even though it's an over the top horror scenes that like many people aren't into, but I feel like that's a reality that many like 3-4 or at least 3 and 4 types like feel. And actually, I want to like before like we get off mention there was a scene that spoke to me in a very deep way, which is when Sue she's in her blue ball gown getting ready for the New Year's Eve show. She just pulled out her teeth in the bathroom. She's like bleeding. Then she goes to the elevator to like run away and like she's trying to hide and pretend like she's normal, but like some guy gets in there who obviously doesn't give a shit. He's just trying to make some small talk, but she's like, like I don't know, her ears falling off or something. And I just felt like that's like, it's not like actually that bad, I guess, in real life, but that's like probably a way like many people feel like it's like you're going through this horrifying scenario and trying to keep it together as long as possible until you just utterly implode. And that's what 3 and 4s have to look forward to, utter ultimate implosion. Didn't say that.
aging. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even really talk about aging, which is, I think, what it superficially seems like it's about. But I think
Yeah, I mean, obviously aging though, but aging becomes like a metaphor for so much more
the worthlessness you feel like with
within yourself.
your significance, like as it deteriorates. The guy, the young, beautiful, smooth supermodel, probably also like some kind of 390. Looked like
Yeah,
Elizabeth's son.
yeah.
Like first gives her the like
Hmm.
fine, and then he ends up being this like horrific like Schmeagle looking creature in the coffee shop. But I was also just thinking like that's almost like it's like a shame perpetuation cycle or something where
Yes.
it's like I got this done and you're gonna do it too, right? Like there's
Well,
like attachment here.
yeah.
I'm doing it, so you have to do it. So like they try to like make you do it too, so they don't feel alone.
And I think we should maybe if we do further movies, I think we should do a separate Death Becomes Her episode because there's so much to talk about in that. But it kind of reminds me of that, like, oh, like, we know you can like afford like blah blah blah, like you should join this special club, like here's something you won't get from your like regular doctor, like that I'm gonna hand off to you, and then it leads to this like whole crazy like different kind of existence.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies.
Me too. I can't get enough of it. I think I'm gonna watch it next, almost as like a come down from watching too much The Substance.
But I also like that she was like more and more disfigured by her shame. Like it was like her she tried to just avoid being herself, the more disfigured she became. So it's also like a teaching moment, maybe.
ultimately a story about three-wing fours and their inevitable tragedy. You're destined for tragedy. Embrace your tragedy. Embrace your tragic doom. You know, it's funny. I bought roast chicken, or I ordered roast chicken. So I was like, well, we're gonna need a dinner sometime, and I'm not hungry yet, but it's kind of sick. I was like, when I rewatch The Substance, I wanna roast chicken. During the scene when she's like binging and like crazy, I was like, I want to like get in on that action. So let's like order some roast chicken. I'm like trying to be pescatarian again, and I like ordered roast chicken just to eat during like that scene. Okay, bye.